Can you use a belt for self-defense? Now, this self-defense tool could get you hurt if you don't use it the right way, or if you don't have the right kind of belt. And I want to talk about that really quickly because it's a great question. You asked me, can I make a video on how to use a belt for self-defense? This is something that I have been taught. We've been using belts for self-defense. They're called flexible weapons. You use flexible weapons, belts, all kinds of pieces of material to defend yourself in different styles of martial arts. So it's been around for a long time. A lot of the techniques that you're taught to use in traditional classes require wrapping someone's hand as they're coming in for a punch or a slap, or they're trying to hit you with a weapon. You would block, you would twist, you would pull them to the ground, tie them up behind their back, all kinds of cool things that you can do if they let you. It's like Aikido. If you throw a punch in Aikido and the person knows what he's doing and you allow him to throw you, then you get thrown. Usually though, if a boxer is fighting somebody in one of those styles, more esoteric styles, it doesn't work out that well. But we're going to talk about that at another time. But I wanted to talk about how you could use a belt so that you don't get hurt and that you don't become a victim of the belief that just because something looks really cool when you practice with it means that you can use it. I'm going to adjust the camera up just a little bit. I'm here in the back room. This is just a quick one because you asked me. I thought it was a great idea. Can you use a belt for self-defense? The first thing that you're going to do is we're going to focus on the strikes instead of trying to do these fancy blocking, twisting, takedown, come along techniques. So when you wrap the belt, you're going to have a little bit here coming out of your hand. It's going to depend on how long your belt is. I'm a big guy, so I have a big belt. So I'm going to wrap it here. I'm going to come around the back of your wrist. Then you're going to pull it through your hand. And depending on how much you want to have hanging at the end, you're going to go again if you want. But I'm going to keep it about this long just for this video, for this discussion, depending on how far I want to keep him back. Now, the first thing that you're going to see is this kind of motion. People are going to teach you this all the time. If you ask an expert on self-defense who loves the belt, can you use the belt, especially if they come from styles where they're doing a lot of nunchucks or a lot of Filipino martial arts. It's going to be a lot of spinning, a lot of this kind of technique. And then you reach out, bam, and you blast him on the top of his head. Or you come across with that horizontal strike, you bring it up under his chin, you come across diagonally, and each time I do that, I'm hitting myself, but it doesn't really hurt. And that's the second problem with using a belt for self-defense is these modern belts. And this is a web belt. These are super popular now. Everybody wants to wear these so they can do their CCW and concealed. That's probably the best way, by the way, to use a belt for self-defense is if you also have one of these, if you're allowed to do that. But I know most of us can't, depending on where you are. So coming back to this, to the wrap. You wrap here, go around the wrist, get that nice and tight, come through here. Make sure you have time to do that. You might want to set that up. This is also a great option if there is an animal like a rabid pit bull or just a wild, vicious dog that's mauling people and you need to defend yourself. You can wrap your wrist a little bit and then you shove that wrist right in his mouth and smash the back of his head for self-defense if you have to. So that's another way you can use it. But going back to this wrap, comes here, come around your hand, and then again, we go back to this menacing spin. Now, no matter how you spin it and you create this kind of motion to try to keep him off, in my opinion, in my experience, that does not work. It doesn't work because someone who knows what they're doing or just who doesn't care because they're so angry they're fighting or they're a little off or they're on some kind of drugs or something or they're crazy, they're going to close that distance and you can hit them 5-6 times. You can pull their eye out of their head even if you have, and you're going to need a heavier buckle than this, by the way. I put a link below if you want to get, you need an American-made leather belt with a good heavy brass buckle. These drop ship pieces of inexpensive stuff that come from big container ships overseas, this isn't going to do much. I can hit myself with this all day long and I might get some little cuts and scratches but it's not going to slow you down. Now let's say they have one of these, right? You've got reach advantage for sure. It's longer, it's going to be longer, so you can hit them before they can close the distance and hit you. But again, if they know what they're doing and they're coming in, they can take 2 or 3 good shots from a belt, even with a heavy buckle, and then get this thing in you 3, 4, 5, 58 times, so much that you can't survive that. That's why I say this self-defense tool could get you hurt if you're relying on it to be a weapon that you can knock him out with, that you can destroy somebody with. And I've seen videos, other people, other experts will say, you know, you can do serious damage with a heavy buckle, you can slice them. And then they'll have I was gonna bring in an egg this morning and show you, for point of demonstration, that I can smash an egg with my belt buckle. But two things. One, the egg costs like $4. I can't afford to do that. And two, so what? I'm not fighting an egg, right? If you're fighting somebody with one of these, especially if they know what they're doing, you're gonna have a hard time defending yourself with this. I would much rather see you strike them with an elbow, stick the elbow in their face, and go for that Jack Reacher elbow to the side of the head as fast and viciously as you can, even if you take a couple cuts. If you can destroy turn off his operating system or destroy his head for self-defense, before he gets this into you, or as he's coming at you, you close that gap because there's no room to run. You don't have one of these, right? In that scenario, I'm dropping the belt. I'm not going to go I'm going to drop that. I'm not trying to keep him back and do one of these fancy dancy. It looks good in the Kung Fu movies, right? It looks good if I were to make a movie, Jason Bourne 36, or a movie with Liam Neeson, you know, Taken 12, and I would have him fighting with a belt because it's so sexy and it looks so cool, and you'd think, wow, that would be a great option. But this self-defense tool could get you killed if they have one of those weapons, or if you hit him 2 or 3 times expecting him to drop like a sack of crap that he is for self-defense. That's just not practical. It's not going to happen with one of these. Now, to somebody who maybe doesn't really want to attack you and they just want to puff their chest at you, and you start doing one of these, they might back up, right? Especially if you throw in a couple high-pitched Bruce Lee squeals, wow, you know, and you're swinging that thing, you know, bam, you come down, crack his eye a little bit, he starts to bleed and he starts to cry for mom. That might work, but in other situations, this self-defense tool could get you killed. So if you do choose to train with one of these, and I would say practice accuracy so that you can hit things. You can hit that bumblebee or the butterfly or the dragonfly, whatever's flying around you. You crack those things out of the air, put them to sleep, watch them fall to the ground. You have that kind of accuracy and speed. You start here. Can't do that, by the way. Then you need more practice. I don't think I could do that yet, but I'm certainly going to practice. And I ordered one of those belts below because I want to show, I'm going to do this again, and we're going to revisit it. This self-defense tool could definitely get you killed if you're relying on one of these inexpensive, I'll just say it, cheap, Chinese-made, super lightweight. And the ones that I wear normally, because I wear ones that don't make any sound, I wear the plastic ones. So I have plastic ones, and they're super light, they're strong, but they wouldn't give you a headache, right? If you smack somebody in the face with one of that. I'd have to go back, and I was thinking about this morning, because the person who asked me to make this video, he and I have a lot in common, and we both experienced being whipped by belts when we were younger people. And I thought, why was it so effective when I was a kid? And you'd hear, I would wait till your father gets home, and then that thing would come whipping out, and I said, well, he was this big, and I was this big. That's why that works, right? So if you're much bigger, but then it's not self-defense. That's just cruelty. Especially now, it's cruelty. Back then, we deserved it. But now you can't get away with that. Anyway, I think you understand my point. So you can train with one of these. If you choose, then go for it. I will never say that something doesn't work for self-defense for 2 reasons. One, I might not know the right technique or way to think about it or strategy or principle. And 2, just because, yeah, the good old days, Nick says. 2, you might have a better tool than I have. You might be using it in a better way than I do. Yeah, the belt. So practice, if you want, practice striking, figure out what works for you. Like I said, all the old techniques that we used to teach And I can teach you those all day long, how to block, how to twist, how to turn, how to wrap somebody up, get their arm behind their back, put them on the ground. I have hog-tied a person in a self-defense situation, kind of put them on the ground, but it was like fighting with, you know, it was a grown man, but it wasn't a good fight for self-defense. It was more of like a demonstration. Like, look, let's try this thing. If you do that again, I'm gonna do this, and take his belt off and tie his feet up. And you can use it for that. But it started with one of these, right? Right to the chin. And hard and fast, the 3 basic principles: extension, rotation, and acceleration by taking that first step. If you know how to knock somebody out with a good punch, or you know how to use your elbows in a fight, I would much rather you spend a lot of time on that and then leave this to James Bond and Jason Bourne and whatever Liam Neeson's name is in the Taken movie, because that works really well when you've got a good stuntman ready to do a fall and flip across the room every time you reach out and smack him with it. Jackie Chan, that's the other one. He would fight with these things, and he makes it look really effective. And again, just have to ask yourself, why is that? Anyway, thanks for being here. If you want a heavy duty belt, it's that first link below. If not, you want to stick with yours like I do. And like I said, probably the best option, if you can do this, you have one of these permits for one of these, or your state maybe doesn't need a permit, and you carry that, and that's how you use your belt, concealed. That's a perfect use. That's how you use one of these and you don't get hurt. Anyway, I'll see you guys. We're going to do another one this afternoon, so I'll see you in a little bit.